every choice you've ever made, every path you've ever taken. The man you are today is your memory of heroes.
I know this is difficult, but you've got to keep it together.
Hello everybody, and it's Sherlock time again. It's Series 4 finale, Episode 3, or Mini Movie 3, or the end of the trilogy. Woo! And first of all, before I get into it, after the first two mini movies of this series of Sherlock, I was feeling really confident. I loved the idea that there was a third Holmes, and she'd been playing them for at least the past two episodes anyway. And then we find out that, you know, she's got a connection to Moriarty as well. And when this episode, The Final Problem, by the way, is the title of this episode, I was really expecting it to be this heavily induced episode of repressed memories, but Holmes kind of using his incredible logical mind to overcome all this, to look past his sister as being his sister and solving the crime or whatever was going to happen anyway. And I was quietly confident that this was going to be a great piece of TV. Now let's get into The Final Problem. Right. After the first, within 15 minutes of watching this episode, I thought, is this a joke? You know, this has got to be a joke, because the tone of this episode, within 15 minutes of watching it, was just so far away from the tone from the first two episodes. And what I mean by that is, well, first of all, let's look at the script. I mean, the script, let's look at the script and the direction, because they always go hand in hand. I thought the reason why this must be a joke, or a parody, or whatever, was that there was no kind of true recognition of character. Mycroft was sort of acting like a sidekick, and this actually progresses through the episode as well. And I'm thinking, what's Mycroft doing there? I mean, obviously this is kind of a big issue. It's Euros. We're going to talk about this family member. He's going to tell Sherlock, you know, who she is, how clever she is, so on and so on and so on. Which sort of brings me to the second act. And you come into the second act and we understand that she's got this incredible intellect. She's far more clever than Sherlock, and she's far more cleverer than Mycroft, and she's 1,000,000 times more dangerous. Oh, I'm like, oh God, how many times have we heard this kind of storyline? I mean, it could have been James Bond's Spectre, you know? You know where we find out that Blofeld is Oberhauser, and Oberhauser grew up with Bond in Spectre, and it's that kind of family member thing. You know, oh, there's a family member and they're far more dangerous than you are. And that kind of storyline just made me really cringe. It really did. I mean, I like the fact that that we get the impression, especially from the second episode, that, you know, she's got a vendetta against Holmes. And Mycroft and so on, you know, she's back on the scene, and obviously we get the impression that Mycroft's obviously been trying to keep her a secret all this time to protect Holmes for one reason or another. And then in this episode we come to the conclusion that she's always been obsessed with Holmes from a very young age, and she actually did something to Holmes at a very young age which caused Holmes to follow this path into being a detective, into deductive reasoning and so on. So spoiler alert, we find out that he actually killed one of Holmes's friends as a kid, called Redbeard. Yeah, I mean, under other circumstances, I should be praising this episode right now, but because of this way this episode is showed to us in this kind of parody, over-the-top, less indulgent way, I mean, it just feels like we're watching like a student video of Sherlock Holmes. It's like, I won a competition to direct a Sherlock Holmes episode, and I'm going to do it this way, and it's going to be weird and mind-bending, and we're going to be kept guessing through all of it. Now, I've actually read other reviews on this, no YouTube reviews, but I've read some reviews from the Radio Times and so on, and they describe it as being this complex maze that Euros has put to Holmes and to prove that she's cleverer than he is. Now, again, I'm going to go back to the fact is, Holmes doesn't give us anything in this episode for us to believe that he was particularly intellectual before. So if you'd not watched anything to do with Sherlock Holmes, I mean Sherlock and all these episodes and all these seasons, and then you watch this episode, you'd be like, well, Holmes isn't that clever, is he? I mean, he's clearly clever, but he's no intellectual, so it doesn't take much to be cleverer than him. And yeah, I do get the fact that in this episode we're supposed to believe that Holmes is emotionally involved in this. I mean, he's been emotionally involved before. I mean, he was emotionally involved during the Mary scenario about saving John and what have you. So, but he still came out on top, and he still used his wits and his brains to, and displayed in a very good way to show us how clever he was and how much he's willing to avoid emotion in order to get to his ultimate game, his ultimate result. So, yeah. So yeah, this episode, I understood, you know, I got the story. I like the idea that she's in this mental institution that Mycroft put her in order to keep Holmes safe. I mean, it had nothing to do with looking after his sister, in order to keep Holmes safe. But she's clearly like the most cleverest human being on the entire planet, which, to be honest with you, I didn't really get. I didn't feel that from this episode. I didn't feel like she was incredibly clever. I'm not sure if that was the script or if it was her acting. It just felt like to me that the entire episode wasn't real. And the entire episode, from start to finish, until the Molly scene, was all inside her head. Maybe it was. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. If that's the case, then they achieved their goal. Now, did I find it entertaining? No, I didn't. I didn't find it entertaining at all. To finish off, it's interesting, because before this episode, I was really, like I say, I was really looking forward to it. And I was really looking forward to the fact that she was the real Moriarty, and we were going to get this reveal, or not necessarily reveal, but we'd get this line of script that tells us that the Moriarty that we know is nothing short of a puppet, and she's been ahead of it all this time, and they should make it plain and simple, but still intellectually interesting like the previous episodes before this one. But instead we got this over-the-top quasi-James Bond scenarios. I mean, don't get me on the whole Watson is in a trap and he's going to drown soon scene, because oh my god, it just didn't feel like a Sherlock episode. It really didn't. I'm really disappointed. I really hope that this was going to be the best season of Sherlock from start to finish, you know. And it turns out, for me, it just wasn't. I love the first two episodes, especially last week's, but this one really did let me down. Much like previous Holmes series, to be honest with you, because for me there's always been one bad egg in all the previous episodes that we've had to watch, and this is the one. It was one giant, stinking, rotten bad egg. And it's a shame, it really is. Now, is this the end? Is this the end of Sherlock? I mean, it certainly ends the episode in that way. I mean, we get this kind of semi-montage of how much they're still going to be out there solving crimes for people. But the way this episode has played out in regards to Holmes truly releasing his emotions and understanding who he is and why he is, which I hate as well. Can't he just be a super intellectual person because he chose to be, not because of something that happened to him as a child? I mean, that really annoys me. It really does. He's not a superhero. Anyway, so yeah, so that's my review, unfortunately, guys. The funny thing is, I did an entire review. I actually watched the episode last night. I did a full review at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I watched it back this morning, and there was no coherency whatsoever. It was so incoherent. It was just me babbling on, saying how disappointed I was, without really talking about the storyline. So there you go. It's a shame. It's the last one of this year. It could be the last one forever. I don't know. Maybe they should do a feature film next time. I don't know. But in regards to the completion of the circle in the world of Holmes, there shouldn't be another one, because we now know who Holmes is, we know where he's come from, what's happened to him, and why he is who he is. Unfortunately, we had to do it in this disappointing manner through this ridiculous parody of a so-called James Bond movie. There was no heart, there was no grit, and most of all, there was no logic. It was just completely illogical. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you haven't seen my other reviews of the other 2 episodes, please go back and watch them, because they were a lot more positive than this one. I'm soon going to be looking towards finding a new TV series to review. Walking Dead's back next month, so I'm looking forward to that. And I've got a few other things to think about, in all honesty, but mostly to do with DC Comics and their universe on the movies. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. Always a pleasure, never a chore. Click subscribe if you want to see more. Peace out, and I'll see you next time.